This is Tina Perinotto from the Fifth Estate and the Green List. This is our video podcast series, TFE Learn, dedicated to our favourite topic, solutions. So today with me is Bob Sharon, whom I've known for years and years and years. And Bob has got a new business now, and I'm just going to let Bob describe what it is and a bit about your background to start with, Bob, to sort of put you in context of what you're doing and what you're aiming to achieve. So, Bob, tell us about yourself first. How long have you been in this game?
Oh, gee. I've been in this game for a little while. I come from an IT background, actually, way back in the late 80s. I'm showing my age, as you can see.
Yeah, we all do.
When it was not even termed IT, it was called I'm in Computers, or EDP, as it was.
What was EDP standing for?
That's a good question, actually. Something data processing, electronic data processing.
Yeah, EDP, God, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's ancient history, yes. My first job working on an IBM mainframe for Woolworths. But anyway,
wow.
that was my early days, and then got into cybersecurity, and then got into data centers. And still actively involved in judging data centers globally for fun, just something I like to put back into the industry. Through data centers, because they take 3% of the world's power, that got me into sustainable buildings. A really weird pathway, but that's kind of how I got into sustainability and sustainable buildings. That was the pathway, and got in as a NABERS auditor. I did the first NABERS assessment on a data center back in 2013 for Fujitsu, and that taught me, of course, about test and measure. And I'm a great fan of NABERS, and I'll spruik NABERS anywhere because it's a government-audited, factual set of info to say, how are you performing from a sustainability point of view? And through that, then, got into smart buildings, where we are now.
Fantastic. Okay, so what is your smart building business? Tell us about that.
So basically, we run a smart building platform called Encompass Blue. And Encompass Blue is a data visualisation platform that brings in data from multiple sources, whether it's from someone's API or other database, or from a bunch of sensors on site. And that could be energy, water, waste. Indirect quality is huge now and growing. In fact, we're involved in joint research with Queensland University of Technology and Thrive IAQ in world-leading research for the built environment in mitigating the risk of bad health and catching bugs and viruses and bacteria. And basically, the platform brings together a whole range of data and provides visualization for anyone to use, and it is very user-centric. And it means that anyone can use it, and then with AI, we can analyze all the data sets, look at it, get some intelligent insights. But again, a lot of people are too busy to even work out what the problems are. So we are able to interpret the data with our own domain experts across all of these areas, including HVAC and building management systems, and interpret the data and come up with a solution. Because again, people are busy, and then sometimes you have to go to 3 or 4 different companies to get a solution made up to solve a problem. Whereas we're able to come up with a solution and deliver a turnkey solution, which will save a lot of effort and time, and then improve health, well-being, improve sustainability outcomes, and a whole range of things. So Amazon Web Services tell us that our competitive advantage is we can provide the turnkey from end to end without going to 5 different vendors. And that's the bottom line. So we're here to make people's lives easier and provide the data and interpret the data, provide real insights that can be converted basically into gold and silver and diamonds in the form of better sustainability, better health outcomes, which in the end is not only sustainable for our planet, but is sustainable for our bottom line. It's a win-win situation, and that's why it's really so good. And we're really at the bleeding edge of technology to really move forward to make a difference and help our customers.
That sounds fantastic. Now, I know that a lot of people out there are promising to get data for you on how your building's performing. So you've got, a whole gamut of inputs there. Can you tell us about the landscape of technology and buildings? Because I personally have been covering this for years and years and years, and I keep hearing the same problems are still there. Oh, and someone says, we've finally cracked the interoperability issue, which means everything talking to each other, and that, we're the only ones who can do it. And I go, come on, I heard that 20 years ago. Tell us what's really going on. How hard is it? And why is it such a mess? It seems to me to be a mess. I'm sure the providers don't think so. And I'm sure
I love that question. I really do. Thank you. That is a very, very brilliant question. Easier said than done. So there are a lot of people that claim to have that. In effect, a lot of building management systems out there are proprietary and are very hard to communicate with. Typically, buildings have multiple BMS systems, building management systems, energy management systems, SCADA systems, all sorts of things, lighting systems. And in many cases, they don't talk to each other.
No,
or if
that's
they
right.
do, it's very limited. And trying to get the data is another thing. And in many cases, the client doesn't even own the data. That's another
You're
issue.
joking.
No, I'm not. I'm not
Okay.
joking, right? Not in every case, but it is common. A number of the large vendors have the policy, and I've heard of stories where clients have had to pay the vendor to own their own data in some cases. So it's crazy. So what we endeavour to do is to pick up data even off old systems, and there are ways and means that can be done in most cases to basically crack them and get the data in and then bring everything into a unified platform. Because when we have a unified platform and then we can at least visualize the data and we can see it, we can manage it. Because we can't manage what we don't know. And when it's all proprietary, hiding behind a black box, and there's only a certain way to see it, if it's working properly, it's very, very hard. And in other cases, there's not much data. There's only the minimal data to run the HVAC system, whatever that is. And so in some cases, we need to put in some more data, measure power at the major infrastructure points, measure, your air and your water and your various points that you need to, because the more points we can measure, then the more we can better manage, control, and save energy and money and maintenance and do predictive maintenance. So, but interoperability is a massive thing. And what we endeavor to do is if systems are really old, well, then replace them with a new open source system such as a Tritium Niagara BMS, which is what we've standardized with, bring it all together, and then whatever we use and whatever protocol we use, and typically, they are protocols like BACnet, like Modbus, and from an IoT protocol, that is wireless sensors, and it makes sense in many cases where it's hard to wire things, that we want to be running wireless sensors in a number of circumstances. And in that case, we choose LoRaWAN. Long-range wide area network is used all over the world. It's open, it's standard, and there's a lot of material published. And we can even run inputs on LoRaWAN into a Tritium Jace, into the BMS, so we don't have to send it up to the cloud. We can get everything working locally and everything talking to each other. And that's the thing. We want to be able to have the data from different systems or bring it all together in one, so we have the true interoperability, because in most cases, people do not have that. So what you say is very important. The first question I would ask any vendor, is your system open? Is there any closed proprietary protocol in what you use? That's the first question I'd be asking.
Yeah, and do a lot of them have that closed system?
Yeah. I mean, they'll talk BACnet or Modbus, so they have that, but the systems themselves inside are proprietary.
Oh, okay. So part of what they produce is accessible,
Yes.
and the rest is inside. So they don't want you to see how it works under the hood, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so you come along to a building, so you've got a big city building that you're looking after, you've just been commissioned to do it, and some of the systems are legacy items. So with some of those you can work with those and some you can't? Is that the message I'm getting?
Correct. Look, if something is 15, 20 years old, you really, it's end of life anyway.
Right.
15, 20 years old, you want to replace it. I'm talking about controllers. I'm talking about all these, I'm not talking about the huge pieces of infrastructure. I'm talking about the things that turn the valves open and the dampers and the controllers managing your HVAC systems, those things. When you're 15, 20, 25 years old, you really want to start replacing those things. However, having said that, the most common scenario is you'll have stuff anywhere from 5 to 15 years old is quite common. So typically working with older devices is quite feasible and possible, but where it makes sense. And again, every site is different. There's no cookie cutter here. Yeah. We have to examine each site on its merits and then provide the right information and recommendations in terms of what is the best course of action and what should be thrown out, what should be kept. Certainly of that age, you'd probably, especially when you're about 15, 20 years old, the building management system typically is very limited in its capability, and you would want to replace it only because you can gain much greater efficiencies and security around the newer systems.
So, I mean, how many of our CBD buildings are kind of up to scratch and functioning ideally, and what's the proportion of those that are really struggling? We only ask for stabs in the dark, by the way, Bob.
That's right. Yes, I'll hazard a reasonable guesstimate to the best of my basic knowledge, and I would suggest that the majority of buildings need a lot of help. There are, of course, your grade A buildings managed by very large organisations here who do a great job in managing their buildings, like ISPT, GPT. They manage first-class buildings and they know how to do it very well. And a lot of those A grade buildings have amazing neighbours ratings, 5.5, 6 star, and high green star ratings as well. So I think those buildings obviously are at that top end and don't need that kind of help, though every building can be optimised just a little bit more, but I have no doubt they are well. But that's a very small percentage of our overall building stock, and the bulk of buildings need work, and could do with a lot of assistance. However, people are averse to spending money up front, even if the ROI is good, because there's just this shyness about putting new capital in, even if the return is decent. People just they don't want to spend money, and interest rates are going up, and I guess money's harder to get these days. So it's a tough thing. So what we want to do is find ways in which we can perhaps capture the data first, understand what's going on, and get to low-lying fruit where we can get a return that's much faster than what normally would be the case.
Is that what your company does?
Well, that's one of the things we do.
One of the things you do. So so that's interesting that people are always focused on lowest cost. But we can see now with the energy constraints that this is going to be a bigger thing, and that the returns on investment might look better now than they did in the past when interest rates were 0 or 1% or something. So who are your clients? What kind of clients are you working with? And can you tell us about what the system that you've got now, what it does?
Okay. Well, we're working both with education sector, so private schools, universities. We're working with Somerset College, which is a very exclusive private school on the Gold Coast. We work with RMIT University, Queensland University of Technology, and in those areas, we're doing a lot of indoor air quality monitoring and not only monitoring but remediation. So, for example, at Somerset College, we're remediating excess CO2 out of classrooms remotely on what we call our micro BMS service within our Encompass Blue platform in the cloud. It's all on AWS, on Amazon Web Services, and we're able to do all that, what I call micro BMS service, remotely and wirelessly.
Tell us how that works. That's amazing.
Well, basically, we found in one of the classrooms going back 5 years ago, when we were looking for mold, we found a problem with excess CO2. And what we then did, implemented a plan to put fans in, door vents, to improve circulation of the air and get CO2 levels down. So we're now seeing numbers below 1,000 parts per million, which is great. We're not there yet because 800 is the magic number, but, we're still at a much better place. And basically, we have LoRaWAN gateways throughout the 20-hectare campus, 22 hectares, 6 of them, outdoor gateways, and we can then have our LoRaWAN controllers in each of the classrooms and a little box that sits and plugs onto the fan, and signals are going remote through the gateway to our cloud. It's at an AWS data center in Sydney, and we can replicate to any AWS data center in the world. We've just replicated to the UK. And so we can manage them. The scheduler is on our Encompass Blue platform, and we set conditions. So, for example, if CO2 levels are below 500, even during the scheduled operation, it will not go on. So we're saving energy as well. And we're keeping children's and students' health and safety as a primary thing. And we can do the same in offices with induct air purification systems and do turnkey solutions. Then we have other health care providers, for example, where we've got to be replacing building management systems to improve the whole operation of the facilities. Same with council buildings, office buildings. We're able to do the same. At the college, by the way, we are doing water as well. We've saved them hundreds of thousands of litres of water through our water monitoring and looking at leaks in pipes and waste now. We're going into waste monitoring and energy. So we're monitoring energy in about 23 buildings and, again, looking for unusual sources of too much energy in those buildings to, again, mitigate the energy usage. And, again, it's all around a sustainability move by the school, which, is not uncommon. We're all trying to achieve that same end, but in a very practical way. But leading the world, even Ted Baillieu, our ex-premier, who is an architect, so he's heavily involved in indoor air quality. And even he said Somerset College is leading the world in this whole area of indoor air quality in schools and classrooms.
So sorry, Bob. When you find that the parts per thousand, is it per million? Parts per million is too high. What do you do? What is the intervention that you make?
Okay, what we do is we have these high-speed, low-noise fans, and we control them remotely through our platform. And so and it will, because you've got 30 students in a classroom and the law of physics applies, and what will happen is your CO2 levels will increase. Without any ventilation, you can get up to 3,000 parts per million in there, which will affect cognitive function as well. It's like being in an office. Have you ever been in a meeting in a small office with 10 people, and after 1 hour you're getting a bit, because...
Yeah. Or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, even in a big office, you start to fall asleep.
Yeah, the CO2 levels are rising because there's too many people in the room and it's not enough. So same thing. But now when we do this, we're able to manage that and
So you're
really
extracting the
we're
dead air
extracting
and putting
excess
it.
CO2 and bringing fresh air through. And these are typically rooms where you've got inverter split systems. So they don't bring in fresh air normally. Unlike a ducted system, ducted systems bring in
Oh,
outside air. These things don't.
that's interesting.
Yeah, but even in ducted systems, sometimes there are problems in certain areas, and we can remediate that as well in the same form, but using in-duct air purification systems, but choosing the right systems because some of them are not right and not healthy. So we need to select the right systems to deliver the right health and well-being. So again, domain expertise is important. It's not just anyone can have a website. Anyone can have a cloud, visualization platform or an IoT platform, but providing domain expertise is fundamental. So we can help organizations then deliver the solutions because they haven't got the time to put these things together. And so we're there as their assistance to provide those solutions in whether it's energy or water or air quality or building management systems, and we can help them to save that time and deliver those savings to them, whether it's health and safety or energy and water or just pure cost savings or maintenance savings.
Yeah. So you're there to kind of monitor the whole thing and balance it all out. That's fantastic. So, you mentioned that indoor air quality was a rising concern amongst people. What's behind that? And what, is it, there's a lot of mold we didn't used to hear about mold years ago, but now we're hearing a lot about it. What's going on there, do you think?
Well, it was originally sparked, of course, because of COVID, all of the things that happened. So out of that raised people's awareness, people can catch a bug from someone so easily. And it kind of, like people have been, the experts have been around longer than that. But that arose that to people's attention. And so as a result of that, people have started to look at, okay, so what happens in a building and what happens? I'll give you a simple example. If you're walking in the hallway of your building and ventilation in that part of the building may not be very good, might be good in some parts, but not that part. And another person is walking opposite you the other direction. And say your CO2 levels are around 1,500 parts per million, which is a marker of the ventilation quality in that particular area. And if that person has a pre-COVID, for example, they don't even know they got it, you're probably going to catch it. But if CO2 levels are 800 or lower in that part of the building, you are probably not going to catch it. Here is a practical example, right, of how this goes. And so what we're trying to do is make it safe for everyone. There are people who have autoimmune diseases or who just, have to be careful because of the conditions that they have and can't go anywhere. And what we're trying to do is make air quality as a right, as their actual right, not an option or a privilege, right? So if somebody goes to a public building or an office building or a hotel or wherever, well, air quality should be at premium because we want to mitigate the risk that people are going to catch bugs and diseases from other people. And that's what we're trying to do. And if there's a problem outside, we'll catch that as well. So this is the thing, it's about making sure that people are aware. So we have things like WELL is a rating, even neighbours, IE is another one, indoor environment, IEQ, and there are others, but we're trying to develop legislation and standards, and that's who we're working with in Thrive IAQ at QUT in trying to establish this. And it's headed by eminent Professor Lydia Morozka, who's one of the foremost professors in the world, highly respected. But she has a great team of people and people within, associates and other universities working together. And there's a lot of people involved, experts who know so much more than I do, but helping to bring this together to make standards because a lot of building operators don't want to spend the money even to monitor much air quality if they don't have to. And it's a safety issue now, and it's becoming more important. So standards and legislation will come through in the coming few years.
But they're not there now?
No. There's
interesting.
basic ASHRAE standards about your ventilation.
But not embedded in the National Construction Code.
There are some for brand new buildings, but again, ASHRAE, but not. We need to be monitoring everywhere, and we don't have this. There are no
for existing buildings, right? And ASHRAE is the international standard, isn't it? Yes. For what does it stand for? Australia, something or other, but it's the international standard for air quality, right?
Well, ASHRAE, it's more around ventilation. Rather than air quality, it's more around that.
Oh, okay.
Right, and that's sort of more around that side of it. But what we need is standards which are being worked on as we speak and regulations around those so that people have to have this. A bit like commercial building disclosure for neighbours. Yeah. So if you're leasing 1,000 square metres or more in a building, you've got to provide what is your base building neighbours rating by law. Yeah. Well, what we want is something similar here where, we need to be measuring, not having one, sensor or two sensors per floor. That's a waste of time. We're talking about, 20 to 30 sensors per floor. Right. And in a shopping centre, you're talking about 100 sensors per floor because you want to know, how the ventilation quality is. And then you want to look at the different parameters, CO2, temperature, humidity, of course. And then you've got your volatile organic compounds and your particulate matter, PM2.5, PM10, PM1, and we can even go down to PM.1, which then will detect a pathogen such as COVID. You'll have less of those, but the point is we need to be working out how is the ventilation in the building as a whole and how is the air quality everywhere. So we know where there are problems, and where there are problems, we can fix it.
Yeah. And what about mould? That's been, as I said, what's your view on that?
Yeah,
I mean, obviously you're a tech expert.
We've had a bit to do with that, and we had consulted. There was a certain medical institution up in northern Queensland. I won't mention names.
Remain nameless, yes.
No, and they had a mold problem, and they knew it, but they didn't even want to spend a small amount of money to monitor the problem.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It was really interesting. Basically, we don't need a lot. So the way we like to approach it, with existing commercial sensors, right, and not going in with the scientific sensors, we can be measuring total volatile organic compounds and humidity. Those two components, which are on low-cost sensors, wireless sensors, so they're not expensive. And with those, when those two numbers are consistently high, right, in an area, and then we compare that with others, and compare other conditions, we know that most likely, very most likely, there's a mold problem. At that point, we would then recommend, we have people we would go to within the industry to come out, and then they would do a swab, right, of the locations we suspect. And then lo and behold, they will find something. And typically with mold, it's like a bacteria. It forms, microbes and things, and it spreads. So they've got to literally pull out the wood and the frames because it eats into it, and they've got to replace lots of it depending how bad it goes. So if it's not dealt with correctly, it will just spread. And if you watched a program, this is going back a while ago on A Current Affair, Lucy Wicks, she was a former MP for Central Coast in New South Wales. She suffered from mold sickness. And it's a horrible story. She's it's been documented on A Current Affair that they interviewed her a few times, and it's not a good thing. So you want to deal with mold very quickly before it spreads.
Yeah, and you've got an early warning system that can help them. That's very good. And have you seen an increase in mold detection through your systems over the years? Because it feels like you're in Melbourne, but in Sydney it's becoming really humid. The last few months I've noticed a rise in humidity.
Yeah, we do a little bit, but we don't do as much in Sydney. We do, of course, Queensland, and now we'll be doing a lot more in Queensland as well. We've got some new projects happening up there, so I suspect we will be seeing a lot more of that. In Melbourne, it's generally not too bad, mostly.
No, Melbourne doesn't have that. It's got the dry heat as
Yeah,
well, which is
yeah. So
interesting.
we're
Yeah,
more fortunate,
yeah,
but no, we just need to be on the lookout
yeah,
and just using existing sensors, or so you can do a double up. You got air quality, and while you're measuring your air quality, you'll pick this up.
yeah.
So there's no additional. It's all
I
part
know.
of your air quality mix. And we can be measuring for that at the same time as we're doing our air quality.
Yeah.
There's no difference there.
Yeah. And what about energy consumption? I mean, okay, tell us about that, how most people are faring. And, I thought people keep telling us, oh, the commercial property industry really knows how to do energy efficiency now. And I'm going, yeah, probably at the top end. What about
Yeah.
people a bit further down?
Yeah, look, we've got solutions. We've got some other solutions like nanofluids, heat transfer nanofluids for chillers, and that will save 15, maybe 20% of energy for a chiller, which is your biggest part of your HVAC system on your larger HVAC systems, which is a lot of energy. Now we've put forward ROIs of 2.5 years. And in one case, even around 1 year, 1.5 years, and people are still hesitant to spend money. So I think it's interesting how that all works. I think we need a different system where it can more easily be funded as a service.
Oh, yeah,
With
that's
certain
interesting.
funding arrangements, because we don't have the wherewithal, but there must be some ways that we can do that. But in terms of a simple method, well, it's a matter of measuring all your major infrastructure, and in many cases, that's not being done. Okay, they might be measuring the chiller, and you get your mains, but in many instances, what's not being measured are all your pumps, your chillers, your main air handling units, and all the major bits of infrastructure that is chewing up energy. And we can measure it from 2 points of view. One, as to how much power is being used, and is that normal for that device at the time, and two, how is it behaving from we can do that by looking at the power factor to the device, looking at some of the harmonics, and then we can tell, is it a maintenance issue on that, or at the front, like mains, is it power quality issue? If it's power quality, we know how to deal with that, and we can come up with solutions around it. But and the number of companies have done more of the latter in terms of putting power factor correction in, or voltage regulation, but a lot of people haven't. But then drilling down, and especially in a lot of those older buildings, people don't know how much energy is being used on each of the devices. They know the
Oh,
sum
I
total,
see. Right.
but they don't know. So we're not talking of your 5 and 6 star neighbours buildings. We're talking down, at your 4 star, 3 star, 2 star type stuff.
Yeah, they're the ones that really need it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so you can save quite a lot of energy, but of money for them, in energy and money, but they're not doing it. So what I've heard on the grapevine that, because people are buying their energy,
Mm.
on a 5-year contract, and they're sort of
Mm.
like it's a commodity that they commit to into the
Mm.
future. So they've got a set price, and that's why they're not motivated to save money. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it's certainly when they got it at a good price. So for some of them, if they're paying like 16 cents a kilowatt hour, which is a bargain these days, and they're on some of these older contracts, they're thinking, gee, why do we need to spend money? But less and less people are on those sort of contracts.
Oh, yeah.
There are, a lot of them are paying a lot more than that now.
Are they on variable rates
They're on
now?
variable, yeah, or they're
Right.
fixed for 1 year or 2 years, but still it's higher than what it was,
Yeah.
right? So it's still a higher price. And typically that's ranging from, I don't know, anywhere from 22 to 40 cents a kilowatt hour. right? Depending, what the contract looks like. So plus your demand charges, which is can be quite substantial. So what we can do is reduce demand charges by reducing peak demand as well. But I guess people are saying, they're used to spending that money. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You've heard that before, but I don't think it washes that much these days because, the system is broken when you're using too much energy. But some people don't understand that, and they don't understand that, hey, we can do it. But the other problem is that building owners in a number of cases don't want to spend the money, even though there's an ROI, because the way their accounting works, don't ask me how.
I was going to ask you how and why.
Yeah, well, I wish I knew. I really do. Because, their system is different and, they've got some bigger idea on how they're going to manage their buildings and, to save a bit of money here or there doesn't seem to matter to them,
they're after the capital gain, right? They just have to hang on for another few years and then sell the building. And it's somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
Now, I do remember speaking to someone years ago, and he was trying to break through with an energy efficiency solution for small supermarkets, the little neighbourhood and, high street ones. And he was going in there and saying, look, I can save you so much money, like thousands of dollars, almost a week. Just let me get in there. And they go, no, I can't. No. And he couldn't believe it. And he was smashing his head against a brick wall, and he said, he didn't understand why. And then finally he got it. And somebody or other said to him, look, I'm just so busy. I'm already working 60 or 70 hours a week, and I don't have the human mental capacity to consider this and sit down and look at it. Very human problem that you would not anticipate in a technical, that something that has a technical solution. And as a technical problem, there's a human element that stops progress. What do you think about that scenario?
I would agree with you. And even in your commercial buildings, and again, we're not talking about the top 5%, right? Let's go to lower grade A at best, but grade B buildings mostly, and grade C. But there'd be a lot of grade B in the city, and some on the lower end of grade A. So for those, the facilities managers there are so busy fixing things. They haven't got time, they're just trying to keep their head above water, running around from top to bottom, keeping the place going, keeping the systems going, because they don't have much budget. And so they haven't got any time to consider some proposal to upgrade something, unless if it's broken and they've got no choice, then they'll do it.
So you need to go above their pay grade, don't you? You need to get to the person making the decision.
The problem is, and you're right, but in many cases, not all cases, in many cases, the people that are on the grassroots are the ones that then are able to, talk to the owners, or if there are people at head office, then even the head office people have to work with the local FM, right? Because the local FM is the only one that's intimate with what's happening at that site. And when that person hasn't got time, tough bickies.
Yeah, get it. Wow.
So this is
that's your challenge in your business.
Oh yeah, if you can give me some ideas around this, I would really appreciate this.
I know. I've been hearing about the problems for years, as I said. It's incredible. Now you also mentioned, sort of reducing your demand at peak times, and I'm wondering whether you're looking at that time of use solution that's now becoming quite accepted and easier for some people. Is that how easy, hard is that?
Well, we can. It depends how flexible the building operators are, because what we can do is we can have what's called a load shedding arrangement. So what we mean here is if we're saying, okay, well, peak demand, say, typically might hit, say 500 kilowatts, for example, right? So that might be in the middle of summer, because typically they take the one point in the year when you get the most, and that's how your peak demand charges are charged for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is mitigate. So during the other parts of the year, it doesn't matter so much. So say in summertime, you might say, okay, well, we want to curb peak demand. So maybe at 2 p.m., when all the chillers are in use and everything's in use, we might say, well, let the temperatures go up by 2 degrees. Right, but again, it has to be in agreement with all the stakeholders, right? But then that instead of having a 500 kilowatt peak, it might mean that we drop it down to 450 or 420 kilowatts. That will make a big difference on your annual billing. Things like that. So reducing your HVAC, at the peak time, which might be for 2 hours, for example.
Yeah.
And then we do things like that. And then we set the building management system to work accordingly and to provide, to work in with those rules.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very
so
good.
They're things we can do. And the other thing we can do, we work with a virtual power provider. And they're a big Italian company. And I can mention them if you wish.
Yeah, no, we'd like to hear the names of them.
It's a company called NLX. And they have offices in Melbourne, Sydney, all over. They're an Italian-based company, and they know virtual power very well. And we've worked with them on a number of sites. And basically, a lot of clients have generators sitting there doing nothing most of the time. They're switched on, of course, if there's a blackout, and that's when they come on. But what happens is when there's a demand response and say in an area there's not enough power, AMO calls and automatically the system is set up so then the generator will start and they'll go off grid for a period of time, might be an hour, might be 2 hours, and then they get handsomely paid.
Oh.
Right? So we're turning their generators into a money-making venture.
But generators are normally diesel, aren't they?
Correct, they are.
Oh.
But the point is there's no power to go around. So AMO calls.
Oh, because it's desperately in need. Yeah,
that's the only time that they do that.
But these days we've got solar shedding because there's so much power during the day.
Yeah,
maybe not in Melbourne.
Quite often. Yeah, but that in some areas it doesn't get everywhere, remember.
Right.
It's certain areas. So this is localised. This is the point. So AMO knows in this area, this is not like the whole of Melbourne or Sydney.
Yeah.
These are certain areas where there's not enough power for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then they call. And
they call to get
and then companies get handsomely paid because, they're paid, okay, use your generator, but that way there's no strain on the grid and we can make sure we got enough power to go around.
Yeah, fair enough.
That way, we can turn their generators into. It doesn't happen very often, by the way. This is not like something that happens once a week, right? It happens once in a blue moon. But the point is, when it does, then it's converted and it's being used, and it's for the help of the community.
Yeah. And what about renewable energy? Are you finding people are keen on that? More so?
Well, look, most people already, for example, have solar panels where feasible, right?
Yeah.
This is already, as you well know, is pretty common now. This is not an unusual thing. It's rare that I see that there isn't anything.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, there is. But when you're in an office building or you
can't have it. Yeah.
Then you got so much space. When you're in an open campus, that's a different story. You got a whole lot of buildings, and then you can put solar panels everywhere, and probably distributed batteries. You can do all sorts of smart things, with that. And we'll always look at that and discuss those things, and look at how can we help, even for Green Star. If you're doing Green Star now, then as part of the ongoing Green Star operational thing, then we need to be monitoring for virtual power. That is grouping all your HVAC power, your general power, your artificial lighting, your EV charging, your solar, your battery, and then reporting back even indoor air quality, and as part of the ongoing requirements for Green Star.
And you've mentioned EVs, thank you very much. So how is that going with your work? How does that integrate?
Well, that would be just part of picking up the data. And so we would easily pick up the data to say, okay, well, how much is being used? And if required, we could be involved in, if there's a limited capacity of power. It happens in some places. So it might be a limit, power limit. And in which case, if you've got EV charging, in some times of the day, you might have to limit that to the power for the building, for example.
Well, can you do that? Your system can actually regulate it. Because that turns up as a solution in apartments as well. You know, big apartment buildings where not everyone can charge at the same time, but you can distribute it.
Correct. So we're not taking over the controller for the EV chargers themselves. We don't do that. Yeah. The companies that make them do that very well. But what we do is interface between that and the building and say, okay, where are we at? And then regulate, and then say, okay, well, now we've got to put a limit and say, number 2, can't work, or, number 2 and number 5 is offline for now, or whatever.
Is that an easy thing for you to have integrated into your system, or was it an additional piece of work that was...
Oh, no, it's additional. No, it's additional.
Was it hard to do, though? Was it complex, or is it pretty straightforward?
There's some complexity, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad.
Okay. So, Bob, what else are you doing that's interesting that you want to share? And also, I think you've got a website to show us.
We do. And in fact, let me just take you through very quickly. I will share my screen and press the magic button. So,
wow. Here we go. All the nerds will love this.
Yeah, this is a picture from one of our sites. And by the way, you can see on the right, I've got some Arabic over there, and we can get any language on demand. So I might, in real time, please translate into Hindi. We'll now go into Hindi.
Wow.
Let's try that. So basically, our platform provides language on demand. And that way, again, it's user-centric, because a lot of people don't like using dashboards because they're hard to use and they're not that friendly. And so what we're trying to achieve is something not only that looks good, but is easy to use and easy to interact with and talk to. So you can talk to this and build your own dashboard, basically.
Right.
So, it's generating this. This is on our AWS platform, which is sitting in a data center in Sydney, but we've just replicated this in the UK and we'll be replicating it across the globe, basically.
So you've got clients around the globe, have you?
Well, we're talking to potential clients around the globe. We're preparing, put it that way, at the moment. So we've got an integrator at the moment in Indonesia. We've got one in London. Here we go. There we go. Here you go. There's your Hindi coming up.
Ah.
And the headings on the graphs. And the analytics coming out in that language. So in real time. There you go. This is live. This is not a demo site, by the way.
Okay.
All right. So there's something on demand there. And basically in here, we can go to our range of services, looking at power, airflow, indoor air quality. We even do vape detection.
Vape detection?
Yes.
That's pretty modern.
Vaping in toilets and schools and things. People counting, even door window openings, water metering.
Contact device. What's a contact device?
Oh, that's if a door or a window is open or closed.
Oh, right.
So basically we can see if a window or a door. Typically, we do that with the analytics on the airflow, and then we look at that, and then we see, when it was open or shut, and compare the detail. But at the end of the day, it's
water sensors. Wow.
There we go. And here's another screen, because you can save your screens. Here we can see the fans. The usages compared to I might just change the date range here and just go from the 17th to today, update.
Can we take it back to English so we can see what they're saying?
Yeah, I can. To this one. There we go. Here's one. Let's now, okay, we will, I don't want to hold people up. So here we have something in English here, but we did something earlier in looking at IAQ. So if I just said provide CO2, whoops, fat thumb. I don't know if you have it, but I do. Provide CO2 levels for the last week. And then we've got the AI putting it all together, and it's doing it as we speak. And
would this be the kind of demo you give to a prospective client?
Correct. Yeah, it is. It's much more detail. Going into the energy, we have the alarms, so we can triage alerts and set thresholds and multiple alerts. Here we go. It's putting out the information and observations, and then we'll get the dashboard coming up. Provide the dashboard.
Typo. Does it understand your typos?
It does. See?
Oh, that's good. It's like Google then. I'm always doing what you're doing. But Google understands.
Yeah. And this is pretty good like that. Yeah,
that's
it
great.
does it. So now it's generating the dashboard accordingly.
Right. So
and then we can build the dashboard. We can add things to it, and you save it as your permanent dashboard, and it just gets saved, and you go to it at any time. That's the beautiful thing about it. That's really easy. And then we can set the alerts any way we want, whether it's email, SMS, to whoever you want to go. We can integrate to other work order management systems as well. So if you want, for example, a work order to go out automatically based on a certain condition, we can do that. Here we go. And up it comes. There we go. And then we can ask more specific questions. Here we are.
So the big spikes there, what are they telling us, those big spikes?
That's telling me if I...
The 12th of March.
Yes. There we go. That tells me here we have vaping.
Someone's been sprung in the toilets, the girls' toilets.
That's a vape. That would have been an alert.
Right. So the teachers can be sitting there, or the principals or the FM people, and say, okay, we've got a problem here. Very good.
Yeah. That's right. Exactly. So, that's very obvious. And that would have been an alert. That's why you see the alarms.
Oh, you've got alarms as well, so people have got they can be notified. Oh, there's a spike in, CO2 or whatever, energy consumption.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, that's right. So, and you can set the alerts any way you want or disable the alerts. And then we've got a very interesting device management because we have to manage the network, the IoT network. So we manage the radio signals, the gateways, and we're very capable of doing that. I'm trying to... Something that we have here. I don't know if you can see this little thing. This was the world's first. This is the world's first LoRaWAN controller, which we developed in 2018. Because they didn't exist. They did not exist.
Wow.
And we had to. We don't make hardware now, but we did back then. Now we're focused on the platform. So here we have the CO2 levels.
There's a regular pattern going on there.
Each day, yeah, there is, and that's about right. Right? You can see the full days, right? You can see how that was, and we'll just make it every hour.
When they spike, your extra aircon kicks in, or the ventilation?
The exhaust fan kicks in, and that is working, reasonably okay because the numbers are still, in most cases, under 1,000 parts per minute.
Yeah.
We want to get to 800, but we're working on that. We've got a standard operating environment we're building, and there'll be more research coming out on that. I'm doing some additional research in this space myself, so there'll be some more things coming out
That's fantastic.
around that. But it is world leading on that. Now, if I just went, for example, to where are we? Devices. I can see what's happening with any of our devices. So whether it's a camera, a gateway, a controller. And now if I wanted to go to a gateway, got a number of gateways there, and I wanted to see how it's all working, I can go here and I can have a look. And again, this is not so much for our clients. This is for us because we're managing the networks. And we can see the radio signal strength. We can see the signal to noise ratio. We can go back in history and see how it is and go back to history and work out if there was a problem, an outage, or anything else. So it really, really works well. Or if I want to go to the site itself, I can pick any one of the buildings and go into the building and then have a look at what sensors there are and pick up. In this case, we've got some air quality sensors here, and we can see the current numbers in the rooms as it stands up the top. So again, there's many ways we can get to where we want to go. And it makes it easy. Or if I don't like dark mode, I can have light mode if I wish. So you can take your pick. So it depends how you want to see it, really.
Yep, fantastic.
Yeah. So basically, the way that kind of then looks is not this, but rather it kind of looks like that. If you want to look at how the system kind of works with Encompass Blue at the centre, and then providing this whole. And in fact, it will move to become a full NOC service for
NOC as in NOC
network operating centre.
Okay.
For buildings, for the built environment, for campuses and buildings and spaces.
Yeah.
So basically covering all of the things that we use in buildings, including, of course, our HVAC systems, which are typically take 40 to 70% of energy, out of the whole building, which is a lot.
Certainly is.
Yeah. So, I hope that.
That's really good, Bob. Thank you. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you think is important to mention?
No, I think, look, at the end of the day, it's about our approach and who we are. So we're based in Melbourne, in Mulgrave. And all our software development is done in Australia. So we'll be putting up the Made in Australia for that. So, proudly Australian. We have a great crew here, and the crew comes from multiple nationalities here. So it's a lot of fun. We got people from China, from India, from Iran, from America, you name it. It's great. So we have a policy here at Blue IoT, and if you haven't got a sense of humour, you can't work for us. So
That's great.
We like to have fun. I like all my staff to have fun and enjoy what they're doing. And, and for us, what's important is it's all about our customers and how can we better serve them? What can we do for them? And we're building more and more towards that vein and our platform too. And so we'll be engaging further with our clients and asking them to show us what they want to see.
That's
and
great.
we build our models going forward. We have quite a roadmap for our platform, our Encompass Blue platform. And the other thing is we can pick up other APIs. Some customers have data in a data lake. They want the data to go there, or they want us to pick another data source. We can do it all in-house. I don't have to engage a third-party company to do it.
Yeah.
So, we can, engage that way from an IT perspective, from an IoT perspective, or a data perspective. We have the capability, and it saves, again, people time. They don't have to go to other companies to...
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? For your customers, it's time, but I love what you said about for your staff, it's about having fun. And I think you're way ahead with that. So, Bob, thank you very much for a great and insightful presentation and discussion there. That was really good. I appreciate it.
No worries. And look, thanks for the opportunity, Tina. Really enjoyed the chat.
Yeah,
Thank you again.
Thank you.